你正在收听榴莲 FM， 我是 Mustafa Kamal Ayub。
榴莲当头，我是威尔；
自由高照，我是恩慈；
天马行空，我是妍妍。
刚刚听过的这个 ID 呢，是我们其中一位嘉宾，他就是叫 Mustafa 的，他说的这个中文还挺正的，起码我还听得明白他在说什么。
挺可爱的。
是，那其实说到了在政党当中呢，在马来西亚有不同的政党，我们也知道马来西亚本身就是进行的是所谓的族群分而治之的一种政治计划。那当然我们看到有好多不同的政党呢，它是走的是族群路线。就比如说像在巫统本身不是巫统，是国政本身呢，就包含了有主要的有巫统，这个是一个巫基政党。那如果是以华基政党来看呢，他们就有马华，以在印度人为主的就有国大党。那当然还有其他比较小的一些党派呢，都在巫统当中，那些就可能比较混合型的。那当然民政呢，他走的虽然是说比较偏向于多元路线，不过呢乍看之下还是觉得它有一点华基政党的一个感觉。那我们就看回在民联这个部分呢，同样的情形也是在朝，无论是在朝或在野呢，都是有这个族群分类的一种路线所存在着，甚至影响着整个党派他们所斗争的路线或者计划。那其实在民联呢，我们有的是公正党，有的是伊斯兰党，还有当然少不了就是行动党。这三个党派当中呢，又以伊斯兰党很明显的肯定是一个以巫裔为主的一个政党，全是穆斯林，对，他们都是穆斯林。当然当中也不乏有可能部分也非常非常稀少的一些华裔穆斯林在里边。那当然公正党呢，它是走的是一个多元路线，不过如果在领导层这一方面来看呢，还是主要以马来人为主。那换回我们回头看看，以行动党来说呢，行动党本身它就是一个以华人为主的一个政党。无论是在他们成立的时候呢，比如在1960多年代，他们在60年代末的时候成立的，在那个时候已经是开始看起来是华人比较多，不过那个时候的多元性呢可能会比现在来得更强，只是慢慢演变成呢，就它已经成了一个以华人为主的一个政党。当然以现在目前的情形来看，它还是有一些马来人或者是印度人存在。我们所看到的整个结构当中呢，行动党它大部分肯定是以华裔为主。那接下来第二大的这个族群呢是印度人，那第三大的就是马来人了。应该说不能算大了，马来人在行动党里面他扮演的角色呢，虽然说人不多，但是都各身居要职，就包括像我们待会可能就会连线的，如果联系得上，我希望Zairil他本身呢也是行动党代表了行动党上阵这个505大选，甚至赢了这个升旗山区的国会议席。当时这个升旗山国会议席呢是由刘振东所打的，不过后来刘振东被以天兵的身份呢被派到南部去攻打这个柔佛州的议席了，就把Zairil 提升上来。Zairil 之前呢，他就是林冠英的秘书，如果没记错是林冠英的政治秘书。然后因为要提拔他上来嘛，当然呢就让他有一个这个席位，他就代表了行动党披了战衣上阵升旗山的国会议席。结果同样的不出意料之外，他还是赢了这个升旗山国会议席。
我们知道说像是刚刚威尔提到，一看起来呢行动党就是属于华基政党，也常常在很多华人的华社的课题上呢做了非常多的发言，但是有的时候也是有一点尴尬，在华社他必须标榜于华基政党，但是呢他们其实在之前向外宣传的是一个多元种族的政党，所以在有些课题上他们没有办法像马华这样子直接的说我就是代表华人，我就是为华社争取权益，所以他们可能在一些一些政策或者是他们的理念上面呢是有一些些许不同，采取的方式也会有一些些许不同。
但同时刚才威尔也 一一的介绍了几个党当中的除了主要族群以外，还有其他的一些有族的战友们。其中呢，就是行动党原来我们都所知道的是哈吉卡玛，他是一个华人，那么他加入了伊斯兰党，我说的是伊斯兰党，加入了伊斯兰党，但是就他在伊斯兰党的一些职位，各方面的感受来说呢，我们依然就是不是很清楚的能够看到哈吉卡玛在伊斯兰党里面所起的一些作用，他有多么的一种强烈感。另外一方面，我们可以看到就是公正党。那么公正党它被大家所公认为是一个多元政党，它比其他各个党它都来的多元，因为它刚才威尔说首要的一些党组织的高职们他都是马来人，但是也不乏一些高居要职的一些华人或者是印度人，像蔡天强啦、黄杰斌啦等等之类的，都是很重要的一些人士。另外一方面呢，我们可以看到，就是今天我们谈论的行动党，行动党呢，就是他现在因为党内据我所知他现在是有3名马来党员，对吗？一名是我们今天要连线的2位，其中还有一名女士，现在是就任林吉祥的政治秘书，也是很不错的。当时我记得在当今大马的一次访问当中呢，就是访问这名女的新的政治秘书，她说她的家族呢都是巫统党员，但是呢父母亲各方面呢都很支持她的决定。她最后加入了是行动党。她其实原来以前呢是一名律师，随后加入行动党之后呢，她说其实在工作过程当中呢也有很多不便，诸如我说的是马来文，但是大家有时候会说华文，这样的一种情况，有时候他们说的我并不明白他们说的是些什么，但是可以猜想得出来。但是在工作过程当中，他并没有感觉到有任何的一些不适，有任何的一些不开心，因为在整个过程当中，即使是有时候会听不懂对方在说些什么，但是那种听不懂，它也不是误会，它是一种战友同志们当中的一种娱乐的开玩笑的一种方式，所以是他在党内的工作也是很开心的。
当然我们看到说在行动党这边呢，他们之前在这个505呢，已经显示出他们在华社的代表性已经提升到一个非常高的层次。那这个高度呢，是之前呢不容易达到，只有在这个69年的大选的那个时候呢，曾经达到类似相同的高度，这行动党的支持力。不过以现在505的情况来看，他几乎获得了在马来西亚大部分90%以上华裔选民的选票，所以他甚至可以把马华打得一败涂地，连阁都没有办法入了。所以我们看到说，行动党本身在华人这个部分呢，华人选区或者华人社群的部分已经获得了最高支持率了，但是这个支持率呢，很明显的已经看到了是没有办法让他们执政中央的，所以他也很清楚知道必须要有巫裔族群或者非华裔族群呢，能够进到这个党里面或者获得他们的支持，才有机会能够真正的打入这个中央。所以我们看到说行动党现在已经开放了更多的党籍给马来人或者是印度人，甚至是应该简单来说是非华裔的。这就是为什么他们一直标榜说自己是多元政党而不是华基政党。再加上我们看到有好多跟华社相关的课题呢，比如说像华教的课题，或者像之前机场街的课题，或者是总之和华社相关的一些课题呢，你不会看到行动党是很直接或者是很明显的站在最前面打前锋。
其实行动党也是相当的积极在招收马来党员，也是要凸显了他们其实是希望说能够真正的做到一个多元种族的一个政党。但是我们可以看到说，目前的状况还是至少90%是以华人为主的华基政党。那么其实之前他们的党选呢，也有一些谣言呢，或者是一些传闻说在这个 copy and paste 的转变里面呢， 其实在这个本来原本他们选到的中委呢，全部都是华裔的党员，但是在宣布说出现错误了之后呢，他们在这个中委里面改变的成绩里面却改变成说其中是有一位是非华裔的党员，所以也有传闻说他们是不一定是 copy and paste 的问题，只是为了说要让他们的整个党看起来更加的多元性做出的这样子的一个手法，但是这样的传闻是不是真的呢？就不得而知了。
传言还是传言啦。
其实现在行动党呢，它确实真的是在困境当中。为什么这么说呢？其实一方面呢，就是行动党它是在民联内部的。如果是在民联内部的，它有一些作为呢，它是想做但是不能做，因为它被民联的整个体制所限制。一旦你做了出来，会有损另外2个联盟队友的利益的话，那这样的事情他会考虑之后再做。另外一方面，他受到民联的一种民联团队内部的一种限制；另外一方面，他受到本身自己一个党派组成的限制，就是自己的他说的他不像马华一样，他是纯粹的华基政党，但是他是多元政党。他如果是宣传多元政党，但是事实上505大选之后得票率大部分还是华人在支持他们，所以说他们自己本身宣传是多元政党，但是他的基础还是大部分的华人，这样一种就是内部与外部的这种环境呢，就让他感觉到很困境的。
是
你说我是多元政党，但是如果有华社有一些问题，我想为华社出声，还不能直接的去出声，因为我是多元政党，不能照顾一个族群。但另外一方面，如果你不出声的话，那么多华人支持你，你又不能够不说，就是你不能。
他不能撇开这一方面的身份，
你有这样的
他
责任，因为那么多人去支持你，你必须有这样的责任去处理他们的问题。所以在这个问题上呢，行动党是处于两难的过程当中。不过可以看到，即将未来，其实行动党也是有一定的开明度的。他知道种族政治或者是单元政治、单元政党这条路是走不远的。他想用一个多元政党的这个政治方式呢，来开阔他的政治前景。
政治版图。
所以说，对政治前景。所以说，但是目前来说，这个政治前景还不是很明朗，依然国家整个政治局势还是被目前的这种族群政治所诱导。
他们也面对一个非常大的窘境。还记得当初我们联系了其中一位就是伊斯兰党的这位党员，哪一位的那个我忘了什么名字了，有点抱歉。不过他提到了一点呢，他非常重要的一点就是当初呢，就是伊斯兰党的成绩呢，其实有受了影响，多多少少行动党这一部分呢有一定的责任。为什么呢？因为有好多在马来社群当中呢，其实对行动党呢是抱有着一定的担心和担忧。那这个担忧呢，就造成了马来社群呢，他们不敢把票投给民联，甚至在一些伊斯兰党所攻打的区域当中呢，就造就了华裔选票的流失马来票选票的流失。那当然，我们也看回瓜拉波什的这个补选当中，行动党其实本身呢，这个乌巴鸟是没飞到瓜拉波什去的。那当然，这是不是一个明智的选择？其实在一些分析眼来看呢，它确实是一个明智的选择。因为如果乌巴鸟真的敢飞到这个瓜拉波什去助选，搞不好可能会让选情更告急。只是说当时呢，他们就选择了一个策略，是行动党本身没到那边去，所以这也同时呢反映了一个一个事实现象，确实有好多巫裔或者是马来人呢，对行动党是抱持着一定的警觉心的。那当然，我们也看到另外一个情形呢，还有就是说，在伊斯兰党，刚刚也提到说，伊斯兰党呢，他们同样有华人存在。那我们看回在所谓的行动党，马来人到底在行动党里面能扮演着什么样的角色？因为他们的角色呢，是不是因为行动党本身，我们看回历史哦，行动党它曾经自它成立以来呢，都曾经和不同的无基政党联盟合作。那最新的肯定就是和民联这边合作了。那整个历史当中呢，它的合作的成绩或者成功率呢最高，或者是达到巅峰期，就是在这个时段呢，和民联合作这个时段，有308过后又有505。 甚至成功了，就是造就了这个海啸的情形的发生。那当然这个呢也不能完全归功于只是这个合作的部分，他们也深切知道说，如果没有马来人的支持呢，他们是没有办法让他们更上一层楼的，因为他们已经知道已经走到一个瓶颈了。那现在他们也积极的走入巫裔社会呢，甚至走入甘榜啊去服务等等，因为这些服务呢确实是需要像马华所做或者巫统的他们掌控了甘榜区的这些选票。那现在这个服务是就要看看他们能不能真正的去走入乡区，走入马来社群，然后拉拢更多的支持者，马来人支持者，让他们在下一届大选呢，其实不用靠所谓的
城市或者只是
对城市的选区，对，只是靠华人选民，而且呢也不会造成了对另外两党民联两党，包括伊斯兰党和公正党造成了他们的这个担忧。
所以我们只要说看看这一次505的大选，确实一个非常好的一个学习经验。我们看到说，像刚刚威尔提到的说，既然说如果要因为马来西亚60%以上的人民呢就是非华裔嘛，华裔大概占了20%。如果真的今天想要翻盘，想要真的是政党轮替执政的话呢，确实必须要改变说我们目前的把持的状态。我们现在非常华社有一个心态，就是说我们现在非常的安逸，觉得说好像真的是大家都非常的热烈，但是我们并没有走出我们自己的框框里面，去看看说其他的种族呢，我们没有跨过种族的界限去了解其他种族到底是在怎么想的，他们是否真的了解，是否跟我们的想法一样呢？那如果说能够真正的我们也非常希望说明年呢能够用这样子的方法，尤其行动党呢走入其他的族群，我们华社也能够主动一点，不管是在语言上或者是文化交流上面呢，多跟其他的族群进行一些相互的了解，以达到说希望接下来的5年后的大选呢会有不一样的局势。
是，那在我们线上呢，我们成功联系了行动党升旗山区的国会议员，就是我们的Zairil Khir Johari， 我们的 Mr. Zairil。 Alright, morning Mr. Zairil.
Hi, morning.
Yeah, morning. This is Will from Durian FM, and we have another two friends here. Yeah, my friends, my colleagues here. Okay, so today we're going to have this topic to talk about the DAP's non-Malay members. And that's why I'll propose to call non-Chinese. I'm sorry, non-Chinese members. All right, it's a little bit nervous here today.
No problem.
Yeah. So, Mr. Zairil, first of all, we have a question about for this, because like most of the society or the community, especially in Chinese, our perception is that DAP is mostly a Chinese-based party. All right, and what makes you have a decision to join the DAP?
Well, I think there are two things. Firstly is there was when I joined DAP, it was not really, it's not something that I planned. Mm-hmm. Just so happened that at the time I became good friends with Liu Chintong.
Liu Chintong.
Former member for Bukit Bendera, but now he's Kluang. So I think my friendship with him made me understand the party and then made me interested in the party.
Okay.
But at the same time, I also thought joining the DAP would be a strong statement because the whole idea of the new politics today is that we want to break from the past. It's not about race. Mm-hmm. So I also wanted to prove a point.
Okay.
And that's the reason why I joined DAP.
What ideology from DAP that attracts you?
Well, first of all, of course, the ideology must fit. And the ideology does fit basically social democracy. Because I was educated in London at the School of Oriental and African Studies. So that was also a sort of a left-leaning social democratic school. So DAP is very, that's precisely where DAP comes from, especially for people like Liu Chintong, who also believes in the same ideology.
So, madam, what's the philosophy and the ideology? Can you describe it more detail?
Yes.
Let us understand what's the ideology of DAP that attracts you.
Okay.
Is it something like democratic socialism?
It's actually the other way around. It's social democracy, which is a bit different from democratic socialism.
Okay.
Social democracy accepts the market economics more, but at the same time, we are saying that if you leave the market on its own, that it will not be fair because the market on its own will create a situation where the rich become richer and the poor become poorer. So we believe that the state or the government has a role to play in intervening to make sure that there is a mechanism to redistribute wealth from the top to the bottom, to make sure that the income gap or the wealth gap is not too big. So we are saying we want market economics and we want the economy to grow, but at the same time, we also want poor people not to be left out. We want to make sure that the bottom 40% are taken care of, that there are policies in place to make sure.
So is DAP up to now, because like you're talking about there's two different levels, which means that one considered as a group of those in wealth and rich, and the other one is for poor, right? So how does the DAPs that really take care of those poor levels of people, those group in the poor?
Yeah, so I think some of the things that you see in Penang, what we have been doing is every year, because of our, management of our finances, we are able to generate surplus. So we have extra money every year in the last 5 years that we have been in Penang. So all the extra money we actually channel back into programs for the poor. So we have a program, for example, to make sure that no family in Penang has income less than 770 ringgit a month. So any family in Penang which has less than 770 a month, we will top them up with cash. So these are policies which the state government does to make sure that there is, a mechanism to help those who are the poorest.
Okay, for this group of people, are they more, like Chinese, Malay? So, yeah, because we know that, like...
yes, in Penang it's mostly Malays who are the poorest.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so it means that the Malays as well also getting the benefits and the helps from the
definitely.
DAPs,
I think
right?
At the end of the day, what Pakatan Rakyat talks about, what DAP talks about, we are saying that, if we can replace race-based policies with needs-based policies, that actually the one who benefit the most will be the Malays too. So, of course, that's why we always talk about needs-based, and then we are also saying that it doesn't affect the Malays. In fact, it will help the Malays, and this has been proven in Penang.
Like you mentioned just now in Penang, the poor like Malays, they get help from the government. But I would like to know that between the in Penang, between the Chinese and the Malay, how much interaction they have towards each other?
Of course, I think it depends on which part of Penang. But generally, I think the engagement is quite high. On both sides, or the mainland and also on the island. In the government sector, definitely there's a lot of engagement, even in the private sector, in doing business. So, I would say it's quite healthy.
Okay. So do you having any problem communicate with those in the APs and also from the area, the Bukit Bendera, your voters, any problem communicate with them?
I think in terms of communication, in my area, Bukit Bendera is not so bad. Okay. Mostly I can get by, I can understand a bit of Hokkien, so
okay.
English or Malay, I can pretty much catch it, what they're saying. Okay. But of course, there are some places outside of Penang or in other areas where I may not be able to understand if they can only speak Chinese, for example. Which speak Mandarin or Cantonese, I cannot understand as well. Mandarin a bit, but if Cantonese, I cannot understand at all.
Normally, what language? What language that you guys that communicate to? Like using the English or Malay or
Mandarin.
Okay, Bukit Bendera is quite interesting because Bukit Bendera has a lot of senior people, basically 50 and above. That's my demographic. The bulk of my voters are 50 years old and above. And most people in Bukit Bendera, 50 years and above, they went to English school. So a lot of them can speak English, even from the lower income groups.
Okay. As we all know, DAP has won the Penangs for two times really since 308. Now you have after the 13th general elections. So now we want to know that what is the policies and also any strategies that from DAPs that really want to capture the Malay groups that really support DAPs to capture their attentions and also their like.
Yeah. So I think the main thing for the DAP, of course, we are advocating, a Malaysia that is free from racial politics and racial policies in that sense. So we are not saying that we have policies just for the Malays, but we are saying that we have policies that will help those that need help the most, and at the end of the day, the ones who need help the most are the Malays. So, for example, when we do our poverty program, the one that gets the most help is still the Malays. And then we also have a program for microcredit.
What does it mean for the microcredit?
Microcredit is small loans.
Small loans.
Interest-free loans that we give to small, traders or hawkers, to set up their business. So it's about 5,000 ringgit. And then we give this also not on basis of race, but on basis of qualification, whether they deserve it. And again, most of those who get it are also Malays. So I think these are programs, where we do these programs. We say we want to help those who need help the most, and at the end of the day, we always see the Malays get the most help. So, and I think this proves that if the government has these kind of policies, that at the end of the day, no one will be left out.
Okay, so which means that can you provide some of these the proven results that getting from the feedback from the ground there, from the community? I mean, you have the poverty program, right? And of course you have those for the just now you said the microcredits as well. Is that getting any positive results after you have done? I mean, like the DAPs have done all this to the Penang community?
Oh yes, definitely there's positive result. I mean. And now, in fact, our collection rate is very high, almost 100%, or if not 100%, for our microcredit scheme. And then, of course, we've also done other programs where we have basically started this year giving also, cash assistance to taxi drivers. And then last year we started giving to trishaw drivers. And basically we're targeting all the groups which are marginalized, or including single mothers and disabled people. Basically, all the groups that are marginalized, all the groups that need help, basically we target them, fishermen as well, and then we give help. And I think those people who are living in Penang, they can see these changes and they can appreciate. And I believe this is why we got a strong win in the last election.
Okay, besides in Penang, let's say the whole Malaysia, basically from what we have seen in the general elections, we can see that most of the DAP supporters are actually Chinese. Well, there's also non-Chinese who support DAP, but majorities are the Chinese. So is there any plan that DAP is going to do to let the other races who can understand more about the ideology of DAP and get more support from the non-Chinese?
Well, definitely there are a few things we can do, which we have also started doing. For example, after I joined DAP, one of the first things that we did was to start rocketkini.com. And rocketkini.com is it's basically a news website on DAP-related news, which is entirely in Bahasa Malaysia. And before this, DAP did not have a strong Bahasa Malaysia presence on the internet. And if you Google any Bahasa Malaysian news on DAP and on the internet, it's always negative news. DAP anti-Malay, DAP anti-Islam and all that. So we decided to have positive information on DAP in Malay, in the internet. So that's one of the first things that we did. Of course, then secondly, we started to disseminate and bring out information, do forums, more in Bahasa Malaysia, in English, and other languages as well. But at the same time, we faced the problem of the mainstream media whereby our information doesn't get across. So even though I tell you about all these programs that we do, not many people outside of Penang, they know about it. The problem is, if you turn on the TV, if you read the newspapers in Malay and in English, it's mostly bad news on DAP. So that is the reason why in the last election, you say yes, a lot of the mostly Chinese support DAP, which is true, because at least from the Chinese press, you get a lot of coverage. But if you read Utusan or you read News Straits Times, the only coverage you read about DAP is negative news.
So how do you think you can overcome this problem? Because as we know, like internet, you have mentioned about the Kini Rocket, it's in Malay, but it's on internet. But most of the kampung areas, they don't get access to the internet. What they can get access is only the mainstream media.
Challenge. That is our challenge. I admit it's a very big challenge. In Penang, it's a bit easier because we have our state government newspaper called Bulletin Mutiara, which we distribute all over Penang, including in the rural areas. But of course, outside of Penang, we're unable to do that. And that is a big challenge for us. It's also something that, we always thinking about how we can maybe sometimes also use our partners like PAS and PKR to help us.
Okay. So I want to ask. I want to ask. So how many Malay party members in the DAP
at this moment?
Yes. A lot of people ask me that, but the problem is that none of us know, because when you join DAP, there's no column to write what race you are.
Okay. So just out of curiosity, because as I know that, in the committee member of the DAPs, you're one in the committee, right? And the previous one. Okay, so as you are the only non-Chinese, so during the meeting, what is the language conducted in the meeting? What kind of language conducted in the meeting?
I think the language used is either Bahasa Malaysia or English.
Okay.
Is with your present? If without your present, will they still speak the same language?
No, because it's not only me. I mean, we have a few others. I'm sure Kapal Singh doesn't speak English.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, doesn't speak Chinese as well.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so there won't be any language barrier when you, in the DAPs, right?
Well, sometimes with the grassroots members, they prefer to speak more Mandarin because they're more comfortable. So then, maybe it's not so easy. But then, I think generally it's okay because most people can speak Malay anyway.
Okay. So just now you said you built up some program for promoting the cultures between two groups. One is Chinese, another is Malay. So I know in Malay cultures they believe Islam, so all this religion. So but I want to ask, how can you promote these cultures to Chinese or Chinese party?
Well, I think it's all about information again. It's about the trick is always how to get the information across. I mean, we can always try to promote understanding between cultures and so on. But if the information isn't get across, again, then you have a problem. So, which is why we also do a lot of programs. I think forums help, and then sometimes we have programs in Malay areas or we have programs in Chinese areas. We always try to have a multiracial speakers, or then we speak also. We try to use the national language, for example, so that everyone can understand. I mean, of course, if you do all your programs, everything only in Chinese, and then of course, and then the Malays see that, then of course they won't understand. And if they don't understand, then you will never get the communication or the understanding between the two cultures. So, for example, when we do ceramah, we always encourage, don't just only do in one language. Even though you do in a Chinese area, if you speak only in Chinese, there may be some Indians or Malays who come, and they won't understand, for example. So these are also the things that we have to educate our members and so on.
Okay, Mr. Zairil, as we know, recently there's a movie. It's very controversial. It's Tanda Putra. So, what's your comment on Tanda Putra? And do you think has it brought a true history or just made up a version to decide the people?
Yeah, because we have seen from Malaysia Guinea about a little bit about your comments about this Tanda Putra. You say that is, the roles in Razak in Tun Razak in that Tanda Putra is still not up to the real Tun Razak. So, why you say like that? Is there anything that makes you?
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, I've watched the movie.
Okay.
Well, first you have to understand that history is never, facts. History is about point of view. So history is always different when you ask different people. That is the first thing about history that you have to understand. It's merely a point of view. So we cannot take it as fact. Secondly, I think this movie was made with the intention to, paint the DAP in a negative light with regards to May 13, and also to paint the Chinese in negative light. I mean, this is what I feel from watching the movie.
Okay.
That is one thing. So I think this is the intention of the movie is already in a way negative. Okay. But that's only a small part of the movie. The other part, actually, the whole movie is about Tun Razak. It's not really about May 13. May 13 is just one part of the movie.
Yes.
So the movie is about Tun Razak. But when I watch this movie, if this movie is about Tun Razak, I actually don't learn much about Tun Razak. The whole movie, I think the story, it moves without really explaining a lot of what he has done. So we have to understand that Tun Razak, when he was Prime Minister, the greatest things that he did were basically two things. One is rural development through Felda. Basically, where all the settlers, poor Malays, were given land to cultivate, to tanam the modern crops. And then at the same time, he also had urbanization, where he brought rural Malays into the city through UDA, Urban Development Authority. And these two programs actually brought the Malays out of poverty, because before that they were very poor. And then through Felda, through UDA, the Malays were actually able to increase and become middle class Malays after one generation. And I think these are the greatest contributions of Tun Razak, which in the movie never even talk about. So I think even if you want to make a movie about Tun Razak, you should at least talk about his real contributions and not just simply I think the movie is just about drama.
It's more about the family.
But there's one thing now I'm also having a question this here. Seems like the Penang government now actually is not say banned, but advised not to to show the movie, right?
Screening.
But why you choose to watch a movie? Seems like the government,
advised not
better not to screen or not to watch it.
Yeah. Well, it's only an advisory.
Yeah, okay.
So you don't take advice?
I watched it mainly because I don't want to criticize or comment on the movie on something that I have not watched.
Okay.
Because a lot of people were asking me for comment, and before I watched, and I always say, how can I comment because I've not watched? Even I cannot say anything bad about it until I watched it. So let me watch first, and then see whether what all the people are saying, what is true, what is not. So after I watch, then I realized, okay, this is how they're doing it, and then at least I have the right to say something.
Did Lim Guan Ing or Lim Kit Siang watch it?
I don't know. I don't think they have time to watch the movie.
Oh, okay.
So I want to ask. Just now you said you feel these movies have negative impact. Have a negative impact for the Chinese Chinese this group. But so how do you feel many people think about these movies? How?
Well, I hope that people don't believe the movie 100% because obviously. But then again, I don't think anyone when they watch movies they will believe 100% because they also know it's just a movie. But I feel that it's not very responsible to use especially government money to do a movie that is like that paints anyone in any ways in negative light. I think it's quite irresponsible.
Okay.
Some I know some my friends they so moved for this movie. Because the movies is very moved in the past of this movie. So how I want to ask, because you said you feel in negative way, but others many people feel it's very moved different way. So how do you think what kind of effort you will do to make a communication between many people understand how the Chinese feel?
You mean from the movie?
Yeah.
Well, again, it's very difficult for us because we have no access to the Malay media. But at the same time, which is why I gave my comment on the internet and so on. So Malaysia Kini and other websites, they publish our explanation and our point of view about the movie. But again, if you talk about in terms of the mainstream media on TV and on the newspapers, they're not going to get any space. So that becomes a problem. And I can see how this movie may also create some misunderstanding about what happened in May 13 and so on. However, I still feel that the impact is limited. Also because I think not many people went to watch the movie. So maybe that's a good thing.
Okay. So Zairil, I have a question here. Okay. It's talking about the election. It's not about the election. I mean the party's election that going to be happen soon, right?
Yeah.
So that's there was a rumors talking about the previous is not valid. It's due to some of the copy and paste problem, and this copy and paste might be happen because of the DAP's management want to have the non-Malay in the non-Chinese in the committee. So what do you have any comment about this?
Well, after that we had an auditor to check. So I think they checked the votes and all that, and there was no problem. Actually, again, the problem was not with the counting. The counting was correct, which is why also at the end of the day we found out that something was not right because the final result did not reflect the counting.
Okay.
So I don't think there was any question of tampering or some kind of conspiracy to change the result. Definitely not, because we had an independent auditor check after that and it was fine.
So for this coming voting, I mean the election, would you have any confidence that you will still remain in the?
I don't know. I hope. But of course, these things you cannot predict. It's not that easy to predict.
Okay. Wish you all the best.
Yeah, wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Zairil. Thank you very much. Okay, have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.
好，我们刚刚跟我们连线的呢，就是Bukit Bendera 区的国会议员Zairil。
待会呢，我们还有另外一位嘉宾跟我们连线，大家就等到。
Dato'Mohd Ariff Sabri，我是Zunar。
榴莲当头，我是威尔。
自由高照，我是仁慈。
天马行空，我是妍妍。
呀，selamat pagi ya 我们pagi。那是我们刚刚联系的就是升旗山行动党在升旗山的国会议员 Zairil， 他刚刚谈到了非常多的一些讯息。我们也知道说其实行动党在槟城呢虽然说我们知道槟城是很多的华人，不过因为有 Zairil 还有几位一些马来党员在呢，所以他们其实对马来社群呢也有进行一部分的一些关注，当然也是希望可以有更多，我们也清楚知道说他们也希望有更多的非华裔能够支持行动党。
其实这个也是一些好事，像他也提到说他们在槟城那边呢是如何跟马来社群呢做一些互动，他也承认了一部分他们所面临的挑战跟问题，就是他们虽然已经有了一些马来党员在里面，所以有开始的这个 Kini 什么的，就是他们的网上用马来文为主的网络新闻，就是希望说能够平衡报道关于一些行动党的新闻，因为大部分呢，他说在马来社群看到的媒体都是很多很负面的，像五都山都是在抨击他们的。
这是他们面对的其中一个最大的挑战，因为一般上的马来社区呢，他们都是偏重于在钢绑区，就是乡区，在乡区这方面，他们所面对的一些资讯呢，流通是非常的有限，包括如果要上网呢，当然我们知道现在要上网也不是一件难事，但是上网他们知道去哪里看一些什么消息呢？他们的资讯来源呢是受到一个限制的，他们的看到的日常的新闻呢，都是来自一些马来报，包括了五都散等等。那这些五都散呢，我们都知道是巫统的报章，也是国政的报章，所以
会有一些对他们正面的新闻就是难如登天的
非常的困难，所以他们就必须自己去设立了这个消息网站啊，让他们更多人知道到底其实行动党或者民联是一个怎么样的党派。
他刚刚有提到说，在槟城有一个叫 Dato'Mohd Ariff 的他们自己的报纸是在流通在于槟城之间，或许他们也可以把这样子的一个媒体呢，也是通到其他的州属。希望呢，我相信他们也看到了这个趋势。如果今天能够要得到可以真正的像他们说的乌巴改朝换代的话，是非常需要马来族群呢一起来联手手牵手做这一起合作的互相了解的。
其实在整个过程当中呢，我们可以看到马来党员在行动党内部还是极少的，所以说可以看到也许是星星之火可以点灯，但同时星星之火也可以燎原。我们可以看到燎原的现象，但是目前燎原的迹象是很艰难与困难的。目前的
但目前我觉得依然是乐观，
但是目前两个族群的沟通还是存在着一些问题，只是仅仅做了一些这样的工作，并不能解决根本的问题。好，现在我们线上有另外一位嘉宾，
就是行动党在劳务区的国会议员。Alright, so on our line here we have our MP from the Raub, and we have Dato'Mohd Ariff Sabri. Good morning, Dato'.
Good morning to you.
Yes, morning to everyone. So, in the studio here, we have 3 DJs, including me, Will, and we have Yen Yen, and also Isol is here. So, now, we are talking about the topic, the non-Chinese members in DAP. So,
yes,
this is our main topic.
It's a very hot topic now.
It's a very hot topic. Why is it a very hot topic?
Because it's everybody I meet around, they find it very strange for non-Malay, especially non-Chinese, especially a Malay, to be in DAP.
Yeah. So, do you facing any difficulties or obstacle to be a member in the DAP as a non-Chinese?
I don't. You see, because when I get to mix around with Chinese members, they are very quite open about it, and because they are thinking of only to do good things and to have a good government and to have a fair dealing with the government. That's it. I find a little trace of very overtly racist inclinations. I don't feel I'm put at ease,
Why do you think that people will find it special for you to join in DAP, and how do you feel about it?
No, because they find it unusual for a Malay, especially, to be in the DAP, which has been long perceived as the party of being made up of entirely Chinese people, and also with which people claim as a racist party.
So what attracts you to join this party if it's, like you said, it's actually...
when I joined DAP on 8th of January 2012. But, okay. I remember the exact date because that was the time when Secretary General Lim Guan Eng announced it in a press conference. But since then, before that, I've been reading writings of the leading luminaries of DAP, and I find it something that I can relate to and identify with. For example, wanting to have a good government, which gives a fair dealing to everyone. Not forgetting. DAP has always acknowledged the fact that this country is made up a majority by Malays, and they give due recognition to the Malay interests. I don't think there will ever be in a situation where the interests of the Malays being the majority being sidelined. In fact, if we see the record in Penang, for example, which is led by DAP leader CM Lim Guan Eng, you see the interests of the Malays are taken care. Of course, you can't overnight, you can't erase whatever has been neglected over the years under Barisan National rule. But slowly, you see, the Malays are warming up to the fact that we have a chief minister who is a non-Malay, but who takes care.
But there's also a fact that Penang actually is formed by mostly Chinese. So that's also some people think that why the APs can rule in Penang because of the Chinese community. So
of course, the fact that they won because there is a Chinese majority, but even if the Malays do not, do not support, they will not be forming the government.
So besides in Penang, in other states, like you said, actually we know that DAP and UMNO are both the biggest winner in the general election 13. Why do you think that this will happen, and what is your comment on this? Both UMNO and DAP, both parties are the biggest winners in the general election 13. So why do you think is this happening, and what is your comment on this?
You see, because I see the shift towards by the Chinese towards DAP, because I think probably number one, because they think the DAP represents the real interests of the Chinese. I go around. Pardon?
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Hello. Yeah.
So I go around the Chinese community, you see, because you can't hear talk about taking over the government. All they need is to have a just government, operating policies that are fair and just to everyone. giving the due recognition to the interests of the various ethnic groups in Malaysia. And I think the reason why the Chinese have moved over to DAP in particular, 85% of the Chinese population supporting DAP, is because they think they can relate to the cause that DAP is fighting for, and also they think the DAP can best represent the interests of the Chinese. And then you may ask, what do the Chinese want? Of course, they want to have, their education being looked after, and then the policies of the government being fair to them, and they want a good environment under which they can prosper. Beyond that, they know because they recognize.
Despite the AP having most of the Chinese support, but at this general election, actually, UMNO is also one of the biggest winners. So, what is the comment on this? For the UMNO side,
being the biggest winner because they have managed to create a climate of fear among rural people, especially that if their destiny is tied to UMNO's fortune. If UMNO falls, then the interests of the Malays will also be threatened.
But there's also one
religion, the Malay language, and the culture of the Malays, the Malay royalty. These are all falsehood created to intimidate and create a climate of fear among the rural people, which I think they have succeeded because they have control. They control almost all the media. And also because, the only reason why UMNO has survived and also gained a lot of support during the 13th general election is because they were through.
I do agree there's probably one of the reasons, but we also having heard some rumors or maybe some ideas or the comments say that why the UMNOs won such a big won and also the DAP such a big won. But when we come back to the Pakatan Rakyat, we see that the past having really, not say a very huge loss, but at least they lost some of the seats really. And compared to the previous time, they really have a quite bad results. And the rumors is say, or probably the comment say that it's because of the Malays, especially for the young group of the Malays, they just worried and scared about the DAP. So they rather to go to the UMNO rather than go to the DAPs. So is it truth or what do you think about this?
I think that's the general impression created through the media. But if you go on the ground, the Malay thinking crowd is not thinking along those terms. Or any government that comes into power, as long as they stick by the rule of law and they carry out just policies, I think are quite acceptable to the people. And you see, you can go deeper into the wins and the victories by UMNO simply because they win in places where the density of the population is more compared to the voter density in areas won by PR. Such for example, the example that I like to always quote, you see Putrajaya, place around 15 to 20,000 people.
Yes.
Compared to say Kappa, where 140,000 people.
Okay.
So one seat won by Pakatan Rakyat candidate is worth maybe three seats won by UMNO.
And there's one question
and you see the bulk of the support by UMNO comes from the rural areas. But eventually, when 75% of the people migrate into urban and semi-urban areas, I think UMNO's influence and its ability to spread misinformation will be reduced.
There's also one question from PR supporters. They're asking about the Kuala Besut things last time, the previous time. Why the DAPs not seeing really appear in that the Kuala Besut elections?
I think because that's a matter of strategy. Because the 95% of the population in Kuala Besut is Malay. And then we don't want, as a matter of strategy, we don't want to have the presence of DAP, which is identified as being a Chinese-dominated, a Chinese communist party, to reduce the chances of our counterpart in Pakatan Rakyat. It's basically, in Kuala Besar, it's basically a contest between two Malay-based parties, you see. So we don't want to give the opportunity for UMNO, to to use DAP and as punching bag to intimidate people. So but of course our leadership went over to give moral support, but we didn't go in big numbers there, is it?
Like you say, like a DAP is easily being used by the UMNO to attack the Pakatan because they manipulate the fear inside the Malays. But we know clearly that actually, as Malays are the majority in this country, if we really want to do something to change, Malays participant is very important. So how do you feel like how you're going to plan to let the Malays to get to know more about DAP and to change the situation?
Yeah, and make them can accept DAP's.
You see, currently there are 2 Malay MPs in DAP.
Yes.
Our role basically is, especially in my case, in Rao, is to convince the Malays that, the DAP is not a party out to wrest control, political control, or to victimize the Malays should they come to power. Because at the end of the day, you must look at the core values of DAP, which is to struggle for a just society, to establish a government based on the rule of law. And I don't think, having those objectives, once you get into power, you violate those objectives. Because at the end of the day, the rule and the opinion of the majority will prevail. You abuse your position as a good government, they will kick you out.
Yes.
My mission, among the police is just to convince that the DAP is not the demon that as UMNO makes it out to be. You see?
Okay.
But we are a party composed of very reasonable men. I see that among the leadership, the quality is very exemplary. Yes. Very fighting for a cause and committed and dedicated leadership in the DAP, which I think is good for the country as a whole.
Yes. So I want to ask your personal thing. So when you since you join in DAP, so you work every day and you keep touch with so many people, different group, including Malay people and Chinese people. So I want to ask. So when you keep touch with Malay people, so how can you communication some DAP's idea to Malay people, and when you keep touch with Chinese people, how can you communication with your idea to the Chinese people?
Okay, number one, with the Malay, when I go into the Malay community, I will tell them, even though I am a DAP member of parliament, I represent all the people, irrespective of their political inclinations. When I go, for example, when I go into Rao, I appear to these people as member of parliament for Rao, not member of parliament of DAP, because I don't look after the interests of DAP members only. I look after the interests of everyone in Rao. Now, when I go into the Malay community, I have to make them comfortable with the idea that you have a Malay in DAP, but who will not compromise on the legitimate interest of the Malays, and whatever the problems that we can be sorted out. Even though I'm from in Rao, I'm from the opposition member. When I go into the Chinese community, I would tell them, we have to alter our strategy in the sense that every interest that we put forward, every complaint that we put forward must never be stated in terms of purely Chinese interest. It must be you must lead the interest to the interest of the Chinese interest to the interest of the community as a whole. Then only that you give a picture that whatever problems faced by Chinese community are also the same problems that will eventually be faced by the other community. Once you share a common interest, then you fight for a cause which is common to everyone.
All right. So due to time constraint, Dr. Ariff, thanks for sharing today on this morning.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for your time as well.
Thank you very much.
Wish you have a nice day. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. 我们今天虽然有点超时，但是呢，非常开心能够跟2位行动党的马来党员呢做了一些的交流，
甚至是国会议员哦，不单只是马来党员。那当然呢，其实呢，我们也知道说，在行动党当中呢，要有马来党员能够当上国会议员呢，其实也不简单，因为他们要去攻打的区域，我们所知道，行动党所出战的一些区域呢，都是华人选区。那当然，Ariff 呢，Dato'Mohd Ariff 本身是一个例外，因为他到劳务区其实应该是比较多是比较混合选区，马来华人呢都占了蛮大部分，当然还是以马来人为主啦。当然我们就看到说，希望在未来呢，可能行动党如果能够增加更多的党员的话，也许可以增加他们的机会，在来届大选或者甚至获得马来社群的更大的支持。
好，我们那么就拭目以待了，也希望他们多多加油了。
好，我们明天见，
拜拜。